What's up guys, welcome back to a new tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at for loops in Python. So a for loop is used for iterating over a sequence, and when I say sequence I mean a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a set or a string. So that there's quite important. Note that before we can actually run a for loop we need at least one of those 5 things. So with a for loop we can execute a set of statements once for each item in a list, tuple, set, etc. So with that in mind, I created a variable containing a list and a variable containing a string. So let's run a basic for loop through the list. So we're going to say for x in my fruits and print x. Great, so now we see each item printed on a new line. So this is basically running through the list. X represents each item within the list, and each time it loops through it, it prints it on a new line. And we can do the same with the string variable. Great, so now we see each letter printed on a new line. Now, let's say we wanted the loop to stop when x equaled orange. We can do this by saying if x equals and we're going to say break. We're going to want it to run through my fruits instead of the string. My bad. Great, so now we see it just printed out apple and pear. That's because when the item was orange, it stopped the loop. Let's say we didn't want to print orange, but we wanted to continue. We can use a method called continue. Now notice how it didn't print orange, but instead of breaking the loop, it still continued. Great. So let's expand our for loop knowledge and use a for loop with range. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to say we're going to say for x in range, and then we're going to say alien, and then in brackets my fruits. So over here we just get in the length of the list, and then we're going to say print x. Print my fruits, and then in square brackets x. Great. So now we get each item in the list on a new line. But notice the difference between this loop and the first loop we did. So in the first loop, x represented each item, but over here, x just is the index, and we get in each item through the index. So this for loop is basically just going from index 0 to index 3. That's all it's doing. But within this loop, we want it to print the item at each index. So we can expand this range loop by saying we want it to start at index 1. So now we see pear, orange, guava, because index 1 is pear, and we want it to run through index 1 to the last item, which would be the length of my fruits. And then we can even expand this further by adding a third parameter. saying 2. And we want this to start at index 0. Say python loops.py. Great, now we see apple and orange. So this third parameter represents this third parameter represents the incrementation, how much it increments by. So in this case, we wanted to increment by 2. So it prints the first item, which is index 0, then it jumps 2 spaces to orange, prints orange, and then there's no item when it jumps 2 spaces again, so that's all the items it prints. Great. So that's all for this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful in some way. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It'll help me out a lot. I'm posting daily Python tutorials.